Welcome to A Photographer's Life, the channel that takes you behind the curtain into the world of professional architectural photography. Join us now for an episode with one of America's premier architectural photographers. Today's broadcast comes from a recent interview with award-winning American architectural photographer Brian Dressler. Today's interview was conducted by AIAP Director Alan Blakely. We hope you enjoy the show. If you do, please let us know by liking this episode and subscribing to this channel. Now, on with the show.
Okay, we want to welcome everyone to this broadcast of A Photographer's Life. We're here today with Brian Dressler from Columbia, South Carolina. Brian's a veteran photographer who's been in the business for a long time and has quite a reputation around the country as one of the elite architectural photographers. And so we're pleased to have him here with us today. And Brian, thank you for joining us and taking the time to talk a little bit about your career and your business.
Happy to do so. Thank you so much, Alan, for having me. This is my first time being interviewed, so I hope it's not too boring for people. And you're right in saying that it's been a long path. I'm in my 42nd year, self-employed, and go ahead and fire away. I'll be happy to see if I can answer adequately.
That's an excellent career to talk about because there's not too many people that survive that long in the photography business. And so you've obviously made some good choices along the way. What was it that first interested you in photography? How did you become interested in photography?
Well, it's kind of in my blood in that my father was a producer at NBC in Chicago.
Okay.
And always been around TV, radio, video production, and music. And when he took a job down here, when I moved down from Chicago to Columbia, South Carolina, way back in 1974, I was in my senior year of high school, and I had to think about what I would do with my life. And I had always been interested in film, photography, and music. And I was lucky enough to fall into a program that was at that time at the University of South Carolina, starting in 74 and I finished in 79. They had a program called Media Arts, which was basically using all the different mediums in non-traditional, non-broadcast formats.
Oh, interesting.
So instead of journalism and being published as a photographer or a writer or a reporter or television news reporter, whatever, we were using media as different art form tools. And it was fascinating. It was one of the groundbreaking areas of using mediums in terms of a way to study it for a 4-year degree. Is called Media Arts, and it was very well rounded. And what happened was I decided to go into, I hadn't made a decision whether it was photography or music or film or animation or any of the different mediums until I was enrolled in obligated to take a photography 101 class.
Okay.
And it just so happened that a very dear friend to this day was my mentor, my teacher, and I went on to just fall in love as he introduced us in the first class was the power of a still image. And I learned composition, and I learned so much from my mentor, Bob Rowan, who is a very good friend to this day and lives and works outside of Tacoma, Washington. So,
interesting.
I was just really blessed to have a mentor that touched me in so many ways. That's
great. Was architecture on the radar at that point for you? As far as
what, not at that point. I put myself through school waiting tables. Okay. So for 4 years, 1975 through 79, I was waiting tables at night, working out of a duplex, living in a duplex, and ended up processing black and white film in the walk-in darkroom of my apartment every
Oh,
night
wow.
after work, a
Okay.
shift later. And I ended up doing so much outside freelance that I had to get a business license. So
That's not a bad problem.
no, it wasn't. I was just busy all the time and excited to be doing things, for myself and 100% responsible for myself. And then I got married, and I was within 4 years responsible for 3 more people.
Okay.
So I basically was thrown into a obligation of having to support my family, and the self-employment freelance photography thing was really falling right into place for me, and I was just lucky. So to get to the architectural question, I'll say that I think I photographed a total of 4 weddings in those early days.
Okay.
Hated every minute of it in terms of the responsibility. Did a okay job because I was asked to do more and more, but I said, no, it's too much pressure. So I found a love in architecture, architectural photography, in that I like things that didn't move. I've never been a sports or action photographer. I'm not good at it at all. And I just really love architecture. So for a long time, I've been focused on that. And also some scenic skylines of the city in my early career that really made a little bit of a name for myself in terms of producing some really nice scenic views of our city, and kind of got my name out there a little bit.
Okay. So you were self-employed from the start then, it sounds like. Okay.
79 until hopefully tomorrow too.
That's great. What was the makeup of your business early on? What kind of jobs were you shooting that other than weddings?
Early on, it was black and white and producing print images back in analog days forever, doing everything myself, which progressed to doing E6 processing in my own studio. Since 1996, I've owned my own building and made a big addition to it. And for a lot of years, I was doing big product illustration. But I always felt myself drawn to the architectural work, which I love more than anything. But the product illustration, because I had a large studio, was really, substantial for me in terms of carrying the weight of the mortgage, et cetera. So I did a lot of product illustration. And of course, in a small market, I'm doing corporate work, some advertising work, and architecture was always my fave. So, yeah.
Interesting. Has your studio work kind of diminished over the years in favor of architecture, or you're still keeping a balance between those two?
Well, I mean, I'm asked that, how has it gone? And when I look back, I saw the writing on the wall for product illustration not being as lucrative as things went on. And the reason is darn near every product is created on a CAD system for designing the product. And once you have that CAD file and you can import it to Photoshop and create your key light, your shadows, and put any background in it, that's when that product illustration photography took a deep dive. I still do some of it for people that have unique products, especially there's a pharmaceutical company that's always coming out with new products here in Columbia, South Carolina. And they'll call me up and need something tomorrow.
Oh, yes, sure.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm still doing that, but it's off by 80%, 90% from what it was. Okay.
Interesting. You started out in a film world, shooting film. Were you shooting 4x5 transparencies, I'm guessing, on?
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, I'd load up, holders after holders and keep them in a little cooler for the trip. Summertimes are pretty nasty and hot in South Carolina, and I'd keep the film cool until I needed to shoot, and get a stack of holders this big just to do one view. And I was doing multiple exposures in there with different light sources and filtering spot for the different light sources to combine them on one sheet of film. And then, of course, doing the bracketing of exposures. And then I got wise to pushing and pulling film to help me, because I got it narrowed down so far to nailing the exposure that we could run, 10 sheets of film and run the first print, sheet of E6, and then push or pull the rest. So it was a constantly fine tuning, and had E6 processing with a Jobo processor here in my studio.
Okay.
And had a full-time associate that worked with me for over 20 years.
Yeah.
And was instrumental in, processing film. And, in the hybrid time, we would shoot film and then put it on a light table and shoot with a small little digital Fuji camera, like a copy stand situation on the light table, to show the client 4 different views of transparencies.
Sure. Okay. Interesting.
Send them that, and then when we got their image order, I purchased a Imicon Flex scanner.
Okay.
We would scan very high resolution, the 4x5, and then do Photoshop retouching on it. And that hybrid situation, I mean, let's just say quality digital came into its own just at the right time. Because the clock has been ticking on my age, and it was just, I was starting to lose a little bit of the fun. The magic was always there with processing, analog and everything, and it's still there. It's just I can't afford the time to do it. Yeah, it was an amazing process. I mean, just to learn the technique of taking that 4x5 holder and tapping it down before you inserted it into the CNR back to get that film to seat. And then to hear professionals telling me that, once you take that dark slide out, now it's getting exposed to air, and if it's more humid or whatever, all of a sudden in that chamber, you can get the film to buckle a little bit, and that might be a cause. So, duplicate, shoot the same thing. And, when we process that first sheet right on the, at normal processing, if we're lucky enough to not have a bend or a wave or a humidity defection in it, then, we'd process the other ones straight away and just have them as backups and use it for portfolio or whatever. Because those were a lot of the days where we had to deliver original film as well.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah. At what point in time did you make the transition to digital?
I got, like I said, I had that teeny little Fuji film camera that was a little cube that I set up as a copy stand, and that was just for recording the 4 sheets of film or the 2 1/4 transparencies in a whole folio sleeve, a transparency right on a light table. So that was digital just for getting the images to the client to make a selection. And then I think I bought, the first Kodak camera that was really, hitting the mark as the greatest thing ever. And it was, super expensive. And I never bit that bullet, but I waited for it to come around enough to where and I'm forgetting the numbers of the first decent Nikon that came out. But I immediately went to a Creo back for 2 1/4 and used the Fuji camera that had rise and fall, tilt and shift
Oh,
for
the 680 or
680. So it was using the medium format,
mm-hmm.
and I had the Creo back, Imicon back, I think it was.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And was shooting medium format like crazy, which was great because I could get like 6 nice big exposures on 220 film or 120 film. I forget, but it's a great way to go shooting medium format with the rise and fall and shift and a variety of lenses. So for years I had that, and it was so much faster than 4x5. So I kind of transitioned from 4x5 to 2.25 digital, and shot that for a long time. And then I got, I forget which Nikon, but now I'm on I have the D810, and I shoot all my architectural on the D850. And I just, I think all that extra bit depth and everything is great on those super duper expensive backs and those. I mean, it'd be great. I just don't see in my work. I've had very satisfied clients, even in that 35 millimeter full frame format of digital. In fact, I just got a print order, and we print in-house for an 8-foot wide panorama shot of the city for display in somebody's office. Now, granted, it was so many exposures because it wasn't a stitched panorama, but it was many layers due to the fact that I was shooting over a period of time. So that I had detail from the daylight, late afternoon detail, in the trees in the foreground of the skyline, and then I shot through rush hour with a little bit of movement with the cars and everything, and then I keep the camera set up and wait until it's pitch black out, and then do a nice long exposure to expose the office lights of all the buildings. So it is many layers of exposures, and the native file ends up being about, I believe, like 800 and something megabytes or whatever. So the native file processed through the native file is 96 inches wide. So it's I don't have to res it up, and I won't be reducing it, and we're gonna output a 8-foot print, and I've done many of them, and it's wonderful to have all that control and everything in-house. I just go out of house for the mounting of the print. So it's a great system to have that color control.
I'm assuming that you're using the tilt shift lenses.
Yeah, that's predominantly my main go-to is either 35 PC or 24 PC or 85 PC. And I haven't invested in the 17 PC Nikkor yet. I think that it's such a knee-jerk reaction to pick your widest lens and go into an interior and set up camp in the corner so you can shoot the widest thing and show it all. But
you see that a lot.
I'm a firm believer in picture can represent a portion of the whole thing. So you don't have to show everything. Keep it, let it represent. Now, obviously, we're trying to show the features of the room and blah, blah, blah. But that does not necessarily mean always jump in the corner with the widest lens. Etc. So let a portion speak for the whole. The other thing that has been absolutely key to the way I approach an interior or exterior for that matter, a photographer in Denver, one of my father's friends, who had huge accounts over the years, and I got to spend some time with him. He said, Brian, think about the way you look, what your eye sees. Now, obviously, we do have some peripheral vision, but you look in a normal way. You don't look in a telephoto way. and you don't look in a wide angle way. You look
Right.
that's why the 50 or 55 millimeter on 35 millimeter
Yeah.
format is the normal lens. He said, and I'll never forget it because I try and do it all the time, the closer you can achieve a normal view is what makes it easiest for the viewer to relate to.
That's pretty
Because
powerful.
everybody sees in a normal view.
Right.
So yeah, it's cool to go wide. It's cool to go telephoto. But think about what people can relate to.
Mhm.
They see the world just as you do in terms of height to width ratio and, you know, a normal perspective. So if you can do that with your interiors, exteriors, people can relate to it easier instead of this whiz bang overextended, you know, canopy over your head. Sure, the architect loves it, but strive, and I always do, I strive to get it, the longer the lens I can use, the better, to get away from that 24, even though it's the one I use all the time, most of the time.
Mostly,
I
there may not be much choice on some situations. But.
Exactly. But if I can go to the 35 and just back up a little bit to include what I need to include in the scene, I do. You know, I don't just stick with the 24. So I'm always trying to get to that more normal lens.
I think that's great advice. That's something that I've heard from some other experienced photographers too, who you know, have been at this. And those are the shots that, for me anyway, become those definitive shots of a building. It's not the big, you know, wide shot. It's the shot that looks like what your eye would see. I think that's really powerful. It's kind of counterintuitive to what is being generally done, and I'm afraid what might be generally taught in photography.
Yeah. Well, I know that a lot of architectural photographers in these times, the hot real estate market during COVID and 3%, you know, mortgage rates.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of real estate getting moved around. And you can't shoot for real estate without showing most or all of the interior. You basically have to show them. So that's a segment of architectural photography that I've never excelled at or pursued. I've always been commissioned by the architect first, and will also do multi-party cost share with other interested parties, engineering firm, landscape architect, contractor, and owner. So that's typical, or interior design if they had a separate design firm for the interior. So that's always been my market, and it usually starts with the architect. So I'm kind of well away from the side of the business that deals with real estate, especially residential. I've done love shooting large homes at the coast, South Carolina.
Sure.
And large homes wherever they may be. And I love it. I love doing residential. It's just that it's hard to get people to really come off the hip, pricing wise, to pay for what I'm bringing to the table. Now, when it's a multi-million-dollar house and they're having it photographed so that they can market it, that gets into a little bit different category than just your everyday show these kitchen, bathrooms, dens, and foyers. You know, is wide.
Right.
So it's just not my cup of tea. So hats off to those who are doing well in this active real estate market times.
Well, it seems to be a pretty amazing market right now for the people that have decided to concentrate that. But I think what you said about the differentiation between the two disciplines is important, because they are two really different approaches to photography, and they don't cross over very well generally. So, and then the difference in fee structure is significant. So it seems like photographers that, like yourself, they're being paid for their talent. I mean, somebody hires you because they know the type of photography that Brian does. Not he's the most affordable in this market kind of situation.
Right. That's exactly it. And that's what if I get an inquiry from a new potential client, I tell them right off the bat, you can find it for cheaper.
Yeah.
You don't have to look far either. You trying to fill a hole, or were you looking at my portfolio and really want what I bring to the table? Mm-hmm. If so, then we can, continue the conversation. Otherwise, I love you, and thanks for calling, but I did learn a long time ago, the most powerful word in the English language is no. And you don't have to be snide, ugly about it. It's just when it comes to push and pull and compromising fees and stuff, sometimes you have to just say, I think you ought to look elsewhere, or, thank you very much, but no.
Yeah. And I think that's powerful. Yeah, it's powerful in several aspects, because it also teaches you're educating the client or the potential client at that point that there's a reason for this costing more with you. And that reason is tangible, and it's, they're going to see that in the end product. You brought up licensing and multi-party licensing earlier on in our conversation. How much of your income, or can you even quantify it? But is that a significant portion of income, multi-party licensing?
Yeah, it is, and it seems to be more and more popular over the last, I guess, say 5-8 years. I've promoted it. Mm-hmm. Not only do I make more money, but it makes it more affordable for the initial client, which is typically the architect. So I will ask that architect, are there any other parties that may be interested in going in on a cost share? Mm-hmm. It's never splitting costs.
Right.
It's always a cost share. And I'll be happy to share the formula with anybody, because I share it with my clients. Mm-hmm. It's a simple formula and some people think it's great. Some people think it's way too low. Some people think that it's too costly and their multiple parties won't afford it, but I'm happy to share it. I can use an example just because it'll be easy to do the math. Mm-hmm. But let's say you had an assignment that you were going to get. I don't have day rates. Okay. I don't have half day rates. Mm-hmm. Every project is unique.
Okay.
But let's just say that it's going to take, there won't be anything else I can schedule during that day.
Sure.
So I have to plan on a day of my time.
Right.
It's not a day rate. And let's just say that my fee for one party, let's just use an example of $2,000.
Okay.
And then the architect says, well, the contractor has shown some interest. Mm-hmm. How much will it be? So the formula is really easy. You take your initial creative fee, and then for every party additionally that's interested, you add 50% to it, and then divide by the total number of parties. So if you got 2,000 and you add one party that's 3,000, you divide by 2, each party pays 1,500. But I do have to say that all of the expenses are straight up divided by the number of parties.
Okay.
So you got, production cost, assistance fees, you got mileage, you got everything that goes into it. All that's divided straight up by the number of parties, but the creative fee portion is you take your initial of what you would charge for one, and then you get a second party on board. You take half of that, add it to it, and then divide by 2. And I've done
That's an
a
easy
bunch
formula.
of it. Yeah, I've done a bunch of them, 5-party cost share. And here's the key too. That's only if we can get them on board on the front end.
Exactly. Yeah.
No cherry pick. If they want to cherry pick after the end, that's fine, but they're going to pay more per image.
Sure. Yeah.
And, I also have a per image charge after the fact. Usually when I figure the estimate for the architect, and let's say we got a contractor involved and an engineering firm, everyone has different priorities.
Right.
So I'm going to try and cover them all. But then they're going to want to cherry pick which images they want optimized and delivered.
Okay.
Which is fine with me, because that's on top of the fee, the creative fee,
Okay.
and the other expenses. So everyone's on their own when they actually order the images.
I see. Okay.
Selections.
So they can they customize that order then after the fact. Okay.
Right. So there's a per image charge, and it depends on what the image is and how complex and whatever to figure in my, Photoshop time, et cetera.
Sure.
But the other key thing to it is that each party signs off on the estimate, which is geared to 1 party, 2 party, 3 parties, or 5, with the math already done. And each party is billed, invoiced, and licensed separately.
Okay. That makes sense.
None of this crap where you're going to put the burden on the architect to go collect the money from the contractor or the engineering firm and then reimburse you. Well, who gets the license? Because the engineer picked out different pictures than the architect did, who picked out different pictures than the contractor did. So everybody is invoiced separately. Everybody is licensed separately. And then everything gets registered with the U.S. Copyright Office.
Exactly. That's the important caveat at the end.
Let's talk about my career.
I assume that you've had some bad experiences.
Oh, yeah. But it didn't take me long to realize I should be registering my work. And I've been registering my work for more than 20 years.
Okay.
And it hasn't been until about the last 5 that all those fees for registration, the time and trouble it took to organize and everything. And I mean to tell you, I am so fortunate. It has paid for itself.
Yeah.
In these troubling times, I had my best year ever last year.
That's great. I'm hearing that from other people as well. All it takes is one situation where you have to recover damages to pay for all of that trouble. And I've had a few of those, so I can relate to that.
Yeah, everyone gets ripped off, and I still get ripped off. But the ones I find, I tell them, you really need to pay for this, and I try and do it the nice way on the front end. And I just can't emphasize enough how important it is to register your work. And for guys that are, you got to have a system.
Yes, exactly.
Get a system, number your images, give them a number, not a name. My image numbering system is so simple. I can put my finger on an image, 10, 12, 15 years ago, because it's got a number. It really works out great. And that's what's delivered to the client. It's what's on the invoice. It's what's on the license. It's what's registered with the Copyright Office. It's what's in my my client folder on the computer.
And as far as the metadata that you embed, I'm assuming that that you've got copyright declarations, and you're filling up that metadata availability with everything.
To be honest with you, all I do is C-circle with the year and my name. So I do not get involved in metadata with specifying how they can use it, blah, blah.
Okay.
That's in the license. I'm going to do that one time.
Has licensing become easier over the years or harder, or have you seen it change at all from when you started, or as far as enforcing licensing?
Yeah, it has definitely changed. Back in the 80s, it was more of an awareness thing to clients, meaning they hadn't heard of, what do you mean? I'm paying you for a job. I can do anything with I want. Exactly. I said, well, you know, I can structure your license so that you can use it for the things you want. The key words in my licensing are non-transferable.
Yeah, okay? That's the most important.
In general, for architects and people that commission me to do work, whether it's single party, multi-party, whatever, each one gets a license with the exact image numbers that they've ordered, right?
Okay.
The language that the license is for unlimited, non-transferable usage to the original client only. So if I got an invoice / license made out to the architect, he is an original client. It's a non-transferable license, but the architectural firm can do anything they want, you know, competitions or let them, they don't use it for advertising much except for online. So it's not really, architects generally don't spend money on print ads. Right. And if they do, that's okay with me. I mean, I don't get nitpicking that far. A lot of guys will not allow them to use it for paid advertising. I draw the line somewhere. Yeah. And I'm happy for them to use it any way they want for their company in perpetuity.
Okay, that's good to know. I think a lot of architectural photographers are on the same page that way. Everything's
based on the potential number of impressions the image will make.
Thank you. That's a great way to understand it. I appreciate that. Are you now where you thought you'd be 40 years ago?
Wow, what a question. Obviously didn't see COVID coming. Did not see the deep dive on corporate work. No, I'm not. I see that the ease of digital capture and quality capture from even a cell phone is fine in the right hands. And now you can even process, I think Apple came out with a phone that has capability of shooting RAW, if I'm not mistaken. But everyone's so used to taking a shot and then just using it. So many marketing directors, and I mean, their budgets have just dwindled and dwindled and dwindled. And, you know, it comes back to what I learned a long time ago when negotiating with an art director or a marketing person, is that, you know, they were in the position of trying to get it as cheap as possible for their client. Right. And I'm saying, well, wait a second. You know, the farther down we go, that's going to send a message to the client that they don't need as much money in their budget for next year. Good point. And it's a downward cycle that does not end. And now that they've all got cell phones, just shoot it yourself. It's good enough. And as a society, most people, in my opinion, have a much lower mentality of recognizing quality than they used to. I would agree. And
I think photography, when you and I started in this business in the late 70s, was probably perceived as a craft, as well as a profession. And it's something that you took time to learn and you needed a talent for. And technology seems to have supplanted part of that, and not entirely, but I always try to make the point that I think talent is still the best competitive advantage. So, and it gives you the best longevity. If you were to advise somebody and mentor somebody at this point who was looking at jumping into the architectural photography world, what kinds of things do you think would be important for them to know and understand?
I would say study the masters, study, what's been done and what made them unique. Whether it's, scenic shots from Ansel Adams or what's really considered, the top end of the work. And I would study that. And then, podcast, YouTube, all that stuff's next to free, and you can do it all day long. Read a book, look at the pictures, find out get critiques from other professionals. That's what I would say is if you were starting out in architectural photography, I would put together whatever portfolio you could muster and go to somebody that's been around the block.
Excellent. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah. And probably somebody who you admire too, like their style, and then show them what your current state is.
I think that's great.
And get feedback.
Yeah, that's great. I'm sure people approach you, and people do me as well, as can I come and assist you, and or can I shoot for you, that kind of thing. But there seems to be kind of an illiteracy about the art of photography, and I don't know if it's not being taught. I think there's plenty of resources out there, but like you said, studying those who do it very well and have done it very well over the years seems to be such an integral part, because I find myself, and I'm sure you've experienced this, where you'll be on a shoot and something reminds you of something you've seen. You approach a shot and you think, well, I could do it something like this because it reminds me of this shot that I saw Edward Weston do, or somebody like that, that it kind of evokes that same compositional value. But if you don't have that vocabulary, then you don't have that to draw from. Brian, it's been a pleasure talking to you today. I've learned a lot from you, and we really appreciate having somebody of your talent and background and professionalism in the AIAP. And it's been a real pleasure. I'm sure that this podcast is going to be of great value to a lot of people. And I think it was very generous of you to take the time to speak with us today.
Again, well, I'm just honored to be to do it. Thank you so much, Alan.
Thank you.
It has been a pleasure, and I appreciate everything you do for our little niche of still photography.
I will have your information, the description of the podcast and the video that once they post to YouTube, and then both the podcasts are available on all of the general podcast channels now. So I will have links to your website and a little bit of bio information in there as well. Again, thanks to Brian Dressler for joining us today. We'll hope to see you again soon. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Alan. Take care.